Hey everybody, so let me start with just a little bit of background here before we get into what I really want to talk about. So recently I watched this second video that this guy named Dogpack made about Mr. Beast, saying that he was an immoral actor, a bad person, etc. The second video is almost exclusively oriented around the, I think, truthful allegation that Mr. Beast paid this guy, Jake Weddle, to torture himself, to be in solitary confinement. A psychological situation which is torturous and horrible and cruel. So I'm inclined to agree with the public's assessment here. It is wrong to pay people to torture themselves in horrible ways, right? I think that makes sense, and I think that's a standard we can set. To be fair here, I guess, Mr. Beast is not the first person to do this, not the first person to continue to do this. You know, people on Survivor, they're deprived of food. They don't get to eat food lots of the time, like they're hungry. That's crazy. That it's a show about watching people not have enough to eat. And then there's that show Alone, where people just spend like so much time in the wilderness or whatever, completely alone, and they just have to sit there. I mean, that's got to be psychologically torturous too. And I think, you know, maybe this Mr. Beast condemnation should get people to think more critically about the amount of media that involves what I see as an inherently exploitive power dynamic between producer and contestant. Most of the time, I think game shows should attempt to be, if not fun, then at least tolerable to the contestants on their shows, and that should be a standard we set. And, you know, good. You know, let's do that. Let's think critically about reality shows and the things they ask contestants to do. Mr. Beast has always been the target of this kind of conversation, sometimes fairly, as in the case of this solitary confinement thing, sometimes I think a little bit more unfairly, as in the case of him getting people to do obstacle courses, which I think is basically a fine thing to ask a contestant on a game show to do. But in any case, I think Mr. Beast did a fucked up thing. I think everybody asking people to torture themselves for the amusement of the public is doing a fucked up thing. That's my opinion. So if you wanted to hear that, there it is. This isn't what I'm here to talk about today, though. No, I'm here to talk about a tweet. So recently, Jake Weddle accepted $50,000 from Mr. Beast for the harms that he experienced. And this guy named the Internet Anarchist, who's some kind of like drama YouTuber who just on First Pass has made a number of videos condemning Mr. Beast, said the following. Jake, I don't want an apology from Mr. Beast. I don't want money from Mr. Beast. Any money I make from now on will be my own work, etc. 1 week later, I accepted $50K from Mr. Beast. And then there's all kinds of like people being mean to Jake Weddle about this. I've been saying this guy is sus and got hate for it. So Mr. Beast bribed him? This dude really fucking took a bribe from a so-called op. So I just find this fascinating. Like, this shit blows my mind. The reason why is that in civic society, we've kind of agreed that in non-criminal cases, money is the way that we make people whole. Like, we restore them financially for the harms that we've done against them. Of course, Mr. Beast wasn't actually most likely civilly liable for anything he did to this guy, but on an emotional level, we could say he wasn't whole. Certain harms were done against him that were unfair, and so Mr. Beast gave him some money, and now that's being called a bribe? That's a bribe now to experience harm and then be paid to compensate for the harm? It all leads me to this question, like, what the fuck is justice on the internet? Like, what outcomes are people excited to see? Is there any concept of restitution or being made whole or restoration that's even theoretically possible on the internet? Or is the only purpose of talking about harm in online spaces just to sort of lean in, figure out how much we can destroy people's reputations and then destroy them to that amount? I'm not trying to say, oh, Mr. Beast paid $50K, you should love him now. I don't give a fuck what you think about Mr. Beast. What I am trying to say is, we would normally think it's a good thing to be paid for harms against you, but within this sort of online punishment-oriented context, we have this like very interesting righteousness about not being paid and just sort of allowing the harms to linger without any kind of restitution being provided. What is justice on the internet? What is the desired outcome from being mad here?